So, I thought I'd give you a little introduction into how it is I got involved in sewing machines. Um, so I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and I'd say we grew up in the middle of the middle class. My parents were always broke because they sunk all their money into the house, which we had, which was nice. And I was 5 when my mom got her sewing machine. It was a used Singer 403A. And I remember playing underneath her sewing machine table, looking up and seeing that thing folded up. And I knew not to mess with it, because if I had broke it, I would have really regretted it. But I remember asking my mom how it worked, and she tried to explain it to me, but I did not get it. And so I sort of like ignored sewing machines. But there were these few incidences, and I am really good about memory. My memory from like my early years is actually very strong. I think it's because I had a medical problem that involved a lot of pain. Sort of woke me up early, you might say. But yeah, I paid attention to what was going on around me. No special effort to get involved in sewing machines. So a few years ago, my mother died, and part of the estate deal was me and my sister could go and collect her personal whatever we wanted, and the rest was going to, be sold by the probate people. And so I got all of her sewing machines, and I stuck them in my barn, and so I bought a better house to live in near the house I was living in. And I decided I need some curtains. And so I said, well, heck, I'll just sew some. And I pulled my mom's 403. And it's not the same 403 that I grew up with. And my mom had a bunch of sewing machines, and I never knew she had more than one. So I sewed the curtains. It was great, and it got me intrigued about these sewing machines, and I started pulling them out and fixing them up and learning about them, and also remembering things from when I was young. Sewing machines were a bigger deal back in those days than they are now. And that's why it's so mind-blowing to see the prices on some of these sewing machines, and you think, wow, back in the day that would have cost 6 months' pay or something. Now you can get a sewing machine for like a couple days' pay. So anyway, a few of these incidences have led me to start this channel, but that's a little down the road. I wanted to get this video out, or a video out on this subject, because it's been a little over a year since I pulled the sewing machine out and made the curtains, and it's a little less than a year since I bought my first sewing machine, actually buying one. And that will come out in another story on another video. But for my first video on a sewing machine, that will be the remainder of this video. And so, is there anything else I want to add right now? Not at the moment, I think. All right, thank you very much. Oh my gosh. Look at these barrel cacti. Oh, look at that. Oh, you don't get any redder than that. And there's a cholla cactus. Or cholla. Alright. And here we are at the sewing machine post. The subject of our video today is this Marguerite. So Marguerite was a sewing machine that was manufactured by Household for a French firm called Antoine Godefroy et CIE. I don't know what that would be. Probably something like company or concern. Anyway, Household was a rival upstart company of domestic. I think a lot of these guys knew each other. And so there's a lot of stories, I think, that are interesting about that. But anyway, there was a small amount of these that were sold in some boutique or crafters shop in New York City, and it was fairly popular, and there was a little bit of a demand for it. So it wasn't like a huge demand. I mean, these things were expensive, but they sold quicker than normal. So, Household got a license to start selling them, and so they made another version of the Marguerite. And then Morse come in sometime when they weren't doing the Marguerite and made a Margaret, trying to cash in on that phenomenon, which, really wasn't that much of a phenomenon. I think for most Americans it seemed like a novelty, though, because it had a first name as opposed to a company or a surname. So, and also the flower design made it like a sort of like a novelty. One might say the first novelty, even though it really wasn't a novelty. It was a sewing machine some French company had made for their French market. So that's where the Marguerite comes from. Now, it is a domestic design that is slightly modified by Household, so it's not to be a identical copy, but it is a copy of the domestic design, 1879 head. So, that is one thing that these guys did, was they'd steal each other's designs. If there wasn't a patent, they'd steal it right away. And nobody really thought to get a form patent like Levi Jeans has a form trademark on their jeans somehow. Nobody did anything like that. They had patents and they had trademarks, and they took steps to protect their trademarks, and they stole each other's designs as soon as it was legally feasible. And then in some cases, like in the main case of Singer, they stole it before it was feasible and had to pay the award. I've seen on the net where the Marguerite badge was said to have been Household's primary badge, but they had their own badge, and they were a fairly well-known brand that were thought of as fairly good product, even though they didn't come up with any innovative designs. They just modified other people's designs so that it wouldn't be exactly the same, but their work was considered to be good. It's a pretty unusual sewing machine. Has a lot of unique features. The labeling from the decal that usually appears on the arm of the machine is gone. So you can only tell it's a Marguerite, besides the fact of its model design, by the intricate and very floral decals it was noted for, which a lot of those are still pretty good. Also, the casting is very unique. Like, there's a little flat spot for your spool right there. And this is really crazy to me. This thread tensioning. Look at the detail of the casting. It's definitely not like National's work. Look at this here. It's crazy. They obviously cared about their casting. Look, a hinged piece of the casting. Well, here, let me see if I can. There we go. So, other things that are unique about this. Well, this has, for one thing, or this face unit, face mounted lift lever, pressure bar lifting lever. That's pretty unique. The take up lever is the needle bar. As you can see, the thread comes in through the tensioner, through the thread guide, through the take up lever, needle bar, and then on. Also, here is your pressure bar right here, but here's the adjuster to it. That's sort of unique. And then really the whole head is unique because you have your drive shaft coming through here. There's that round thing with the peg on it that turns everything. Everything else comes off with the faceplate. Other unique features. Stitch length regulator is in the back of the machine. Now that is a feature. And then, let's see if we can. That brings up the other weird or interesting, unique thing about this machine is the fact that it moves. It turns backwards. Look at that. And it has a pretty long stitch length that it looks like. I'm still working on this machine, but I wanted to get it out before it got cold. Anyway, let's see, what else? Well, it's an 1879 head. Everything's working on it except for this. One other thing you can tell it's a Marguerite is by this access port cover. That's a well-known and famous access port cover. But the spring in here is missing. Everything else seems like it's in working order, except that everything moves backwards with this machine. So the latest copyright date on this, or patent date, is 1879 on this plate right there. So I was looking at it I think this is the so-called 1879 head. So that's your Marguerite.